I'd like to take a moment to talk to you about a little sailboat that I built several years ago. I was inspired by a gentleman that built a small sailboat and he sailed to the Bahamas and back. Having never built a sailboat before, much less even sailed, this would lead into an interesting project. Unfortunately, there were no plans available for this sailboat, but there was a lot of documentation on the internet. I decided that I would just do the best that I could do and get the boat as close as possible to the original builder's boat. This project sent me into uncharted territory. I even sewed the sail myself. One of the more interesting parts of this sailboat build was the mast. We built a hollow wooden sailboat mast using a technique called bird's mouth. One of the more interesting design features of this sailboat was the roller furling boom. It required the construction of a quite interesting mechanism. All in all, it worked really good, and you could reef in any position. This sailboat would not use a conventional keel or centerboard. It used something called chine runners. It was a very interesting concept and it worked really good. Along the way, I mocked up a little cabin top for the boat. I thought it looked pretty cool, but time went by and I never completed it. Eventually, it was time for this little boat to go outside and go sailing. We took it for many test sails at little lakes here in Texas. Along the way somewhere, I heard about an event called the Texas 200. It was a week-long mess about in sailboats that started in South Texas and ended up in Magnolia Beach. I set a goal for myself to outfit this little boat for such an adventure. The boat was outfitted with watertight storage compartments, solar panels and batteries, all of the things that I would need for a trip like this. Eventually the day came and we headed down to South Texas for this adventure. I had no idea what I was getting into, and it turned out to be quite an experience. And I did not complete that year's event. I made it to Corpus Christi, barely. But I would not give up. Made some more modifications to the boat, added a lee board to the side of it, which did help a little bit. I felt kind of bad for adding the lee board because it wasn't in the original design. We also added a set of oars to the boat, along with the sculling oar. The sculling oar was kind of cool. It was like a boat in Venice. I never completely mastered the art of sculling, but it was really neat. Used the sculling oar as a crutch for a tent that I made out of an old Jeep top. That worked really good for those nights on the Texas 200 camping. It rained and it stayed dry, and that was probably the best that I could hope for. My first attempt at the Texas 200 would turn out to be quite a humbling experience. During the first day, in the middle of a bay, I had a problem with my tiller, and I had to go to shore to fix it. After the repair was done, I decided that I would just go ahead and camp and then spot for the night. The conditions were not good. The waves were slamming against the boat. I was anchored out in water. The bugs were really bad, and I had gotten separated from the group. I was alone, out in the middle of nowhere, with no cell service, no way to contact anybody. It was at that point in time that I thought to myself, maybe this wasn't a good idea. When I got up the next morning, I thought to myself, I could sail back to Port Mansfield, but that would be a failure. And I didn't have anything else to do for the next week. So I just kept going, alone, by myself. I finally made it to the land cut. The land cut was beautiful, and it was a neat place, and I felt comfortable sailing there. That would be Camp 2. Sleeping in the land cut with the barges going by at night. They sounded real mysterious as they approached. And they would pull the water away from the shore and leave the boat high and dry. And then right before they got to me, the water would rush back in again. It was strange. I would make a second attempt at the Texas 200 in this little boat in 2021. It was fun, had a good time. The weather was not so good, and we had north winds. And we wound up getting out in Corpus Christi again. When we got to Corpus Christi, we stopped and camped at this place called Bird Island Basin. And we hopped in another friend's boat, and I let a friend of mine take out the little boat for a sail. When we were sailing, I picked up my iPhone, and I just took a quick picture, and I didn't think anything about it. A few weeks later, I looked at all of my photos and thought this was a really neat picture, and I posted it on the internet. Not long after that, I got an email from a gentleman that was an editor of Small Craft Advisor magazine. My little boat that I built, never built a boat before, would become a magazine cover photo. Now, how cool is that?